The October wind skimmed over the wheat like a careful hand smoothing a blanket, and Jack Morrison tugged his flannel collar closer to his neck as he watched his daughters explode across the gold. Lily sprinted with the reckless speed of a foal, her pigtails flicking like small flags. Rose moved in looping curves, stopping to inspect a feather, to kneel and pinch a pebble, to hold a daisy up to the light as if the sky might sign it. "Daddy, look what I found!" Rose called, showing him a river stone so polished it looked wet. Jack tipped his cap, pretending to study it like a jeweler, then handed it back with the solemnity that 6-year-olds understood. He was 34, with hands that could bend wire and coax a stubborn hinge to behave, and a face the sun had written on in fine, permanent lines. He had been their only parent for 7 years, ever since the girls were swaddled bundles and Sarah, haunted by the isolation that hides inside wide-open land, had left without looking back. The ranch, Morrison acres of Montana dirt, sky, and weather, was what he had, and from it he had fashioned a home. They were crossing toward the old fence that lined Highway 89 when the world tilted. The girls reached the slats first, and Lily yelped, "Daddy!" Jack quickened his pace. A woman sat at the fence post, slumped as if sleep had fallen on her mid-breath. One sleeve was ragged, torn open at the shoulder, the side of her face streaked with dust where blood had dried in a thin brown brushstroke above her eyebrow. Down in the ditch, a high-end SUV rested ugly and off-angle, steam feathering from the buckled hood. "Stay back," Jack said, and the warning ran ahead of him like a shepherd dog, turning the twins to statues. He crouched near the woman. "Ma'am, you're on my land. I'm Jack Morrison." She tried to push herself up. Pain flashed across her features and she clutched her arm. "Emma," she said, voice rough with air and grit. Emma Sterling. "My car." The last name landed like a dropped wrench. Sterling. Oil fields, high-rise glass, magazine profiles about bold bets. All that didn't matter. A human being was hurt. "We'll get you to a hospital," he said, reaching for his phone. "No." The word snapped like a dry twig. Her eyes were green and bright with fear. "No hospitals. No police, please, I just need—" She swallowed, steadying her voice. "I need a safe place to think for a little while." Jack looked over his shoulder. The twins had crept closer, of course they had, and stood now in a pair, knees dirt-smudged, eyes wide. He saw the woman shift her gaze to them and soften, something unarmored showing through the pain. "Hi," she whispered. "What are your names?" "I'm Lily and that's Rose," Lily said, as if she were the spokesperson for a small firm. "We're 6. Can we help her, Daddy?" Rose asked, voice striped with concern. Jack weighed the split-second calculus that most parents learn to do. Risk to his children, risk to the stranger, the smell of coolant in the air, the way her hand trembled, but her posture tried to stay tall. Then he nodded toward the slope. "The farmhouse is just over that rise. We'll get you cleaned up and figure out next steps." He slid an arm under her good shoulder. She was light, lighter than he'd expected, like someone who had forgotten to eat while life burned around her. The house came into view, white clapboard siding that needed new paint, a red brick chimney that had survived 4 generations of wood smoke and Christmas stockings. The porch creaked in places but held the weight of family, which is the only metric that matters in an old house. "Watch the last step," Jack said automatically. "Been loose for 3 years." He guided her to the kitchen table. The kitchen was part museum, part engine room, a chalkboard calendar smudged by many hands, a coil of baling twine in a drawer, crayon art layered like strata on the refrigerator. The air smelled like coffee and cedar and the faint buttery echo of pancakes. "Sit tight," Jack said. "First aid kit is right where I didn't leave it last time." He dug in the pantry and came back triumphant. While he laid out antiseptic and gauze, the woman's eyes flicked across the photos on the mantel. A county fair ribbon gripped in Lily's fist while Rose made a face, snowmen in ridiculous hats. Jack standing half behind the camera, as if he wasn't certain he deserved to be in the frame. "Where's their mother?" she asked when he started cleaning the cut above her brow. He did not sigh. He didn't need to. "Not here," he said simply. "Hasn't been for a long time." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full of understanding. "That must have been hard," she said. "We manage," he replied, and she could hear what he wasn't saying, that managing is its own full-time job. Rose slid into view, clutching a lopsided teddy with 3 different shades of brown fur. "This is Mr. Buttons," she said gravely. "He helps." Emma accepted the bear as if it were a medal. "Thank you," she said, and the words carried all the exhausted sincerity of someone who hasn't been offered uncomplicated kindness in months. "Can she stay for dinner?" Lily asked, leaning around her father's elbow, syrup still on her sleeve from breakfast like a timeline of her day. "Daddy makes the best grilled cheese in Montana." "That's a bold claim," Emma murmured. Jack smiled despite himself. "You can stay until you're ready to move on," he said, and heard how it sounded, a promise trying to pretend it wasn't one. Night in ranch country falls like a blanket fresh from the line. Quick, and with the faint smell of air still clinging to it. A thunderhead shouldered over the horizon, and the house flickered once before the generator kicked in. The twins curled under a quilt on the couch, Disney credits unfurling, their heads pillowed against Emma's borrowed flannel. She held herself carefully at first, uncertain where to put her hands, as if comfort were a language she'd forgotten, then let her fingers comb idly through Lily's hair the way mothers do without thinking. The phone in her jacket, the backup one, buzzed on the chair arm. She told herself she wouldn't look and lasted 9 seconds. The text read, "Emma, they found your car. FBI asking questions. Assistant got a call from someone claiming to be your cousin. No cousin in records. Get safe. Call me. Marcus." She stared until the letters blurred, then locked the screen and tucked the phone beneath a cushion, as if proximity itself could draw attention. The girls breathed in the slow rhythm of safe children. Safety was a luxury. She knew that too well. It was also addictive. Morning brought sun splashed in rectangles across the table and the sound of a coffee maker doing honest work. Emma appeared in the doorway wearing one of Jack's flannels over a clean t-shirt, hair pulled back in a plain ponytail that made her look younger. Rose, accuracy-free with syrup, asked, "Daddy, is Miss Emma going to live with us now?" Jack barked a laugh that surprised him. "She's just visiting," Lily said. "But what if she likes it here better? She could be our new mommy." Jack choked and slapped his chest once. "Girls," he began, and trailed off because there are sentences that don't have exits. Emma wrapped her hands around a mug and inhaled as if coffee were medicine. "I can't remember the last time I woke up without an alarm," she said. "What do you do for work?" Lily asked. Emma chose each word like it cost money. "I help people take care of their money. I run a company." Jack heard the careful vagueness and filed it on the shelf where he kept other things he didn't yet understand. "Phone company's supposed to fix the landline," he said lightly. "You can call whoever you need." Emma's shoulders tightened as if bracing for a wave. "If it's all right, I'd like to stay off the grid a bit. Are you in trouble?" "It's complicated." "Most things worth doing are," he said. She looked at him then properly, as if he'd passed a test he didn't know he was taking. By afternoon, the weather decided to be friendly and the ranch breathed. Jack worked a section of fence while the girls handed him nails like surgeons assisting in an operating room. Emma sat on the porch steps, listening to the strange, beautiful music of small domestic noises, tools clinking, a horse huffing, a child narrating to a doll. She'd spent years in rooms where voices were always pitched to win and nobody said please unless a camera was on. Here people asked without having to dress the ask in power. It tugged at her. The phone buzzed again in her pocket and she let it. Jack came to sit beside her, elbow on his knee. Bottle of water sweating in his hand. "You're good with them," he said. "They're good kids," she replied, following Lily's path as the child determined that offense required her supervisory expertise. "You've done something right." "I hope so," he said. "Some days it feels like I'm cooking with nothing but salt and stubbornness." She smiled into her lap, then her face changed, and the words she'd been holding came out. "I was engaged 3 years ago. I built a company. The man I was going to marry stole from it, over 2 years in pieces small enough to hide. When I caught him, he turned it around and made the accusation my accusation. Said I was paranoid, that power had made me cruel. I turned it all over to the FBI. He went away for a long time. I thought the worst was done." Jack didn't move, didn't fill the silence. She continued. "It wasn't just him. It was people I trusted. I found out there was a plan to push me out completely. I collected proof. I tried to be clean. The more I found, the dirtier the world got." She looked at him, eyes raw now. "So yes, I'm in trouble. The kind that doesn't care whether you're innocent." He covered her hand with his, a single unshowy gesture that told her more than speeches do. "You're not alone on this porch," he said. It was a ridiculous line. It was also true. The thunder came at dinner, straight overhead, one of those fast summer storms that make you feel safer inside. The power hiccuped and returned. Jack shrugged on his rain jacket. "Horses spook at the noise," he said. "I'll check on them. We can come?" Lily chirped. "Not tonight. You two pick a movie with Miss Emma." The living room glowed. The opening notes of a hand-drawn castle song rose from the television. Emma sank between the girls, one child under each arm. She could have almost convinced herself that her life belonged in this room if not for the constant tremor in her pocket. When the phone buzzed again mid-chorus, she slipped it out. Another message from Marcus, more urgent now. He wanted her to move. He wanted her off the map. She put the phone away and finished the movie, and helped with toothbrushes and chose the storybook with the soft rhythm and tucked them in, and watched their eyes roll heavy, and their mouths soften. Then she wrote a note in Jack's guest room, "Thank you. I'm sorry," and put her shoes in her hand and went downstairs on feet that didn't want to go. Jack noticed things, how a wire sang when it was about to break, how a mare shifted when she was half a second from balking, how the house changed its own breathing when someone tried to leave it in secret. The porch light popped on as Emma was half across the yard. "Going somewhere?" he asked. It wasn't cruel. It was just a statement of the reality they were both in. You were supposed to be asleep. "Hard to sleep when a guest is about to run headfirst into a storm," he said. "They'll come here," she said, voice scraping. "They'll pull at everything until there's nothing left standing. I won't let them take your girls home apart to get to me." "Let them try," he said, and the way he said it made the night feel a little less big. "Jack, these people have killed." He stepped off the porch and came to stand in front of her. "Do you trust me?" he asked. She had to look at him full on then. "I do," she admitted, "but this isn't about trust. It's about keeping you safe." "Then trust me to do exactly that," he said. He put his hands gently on her shoulders. "Stop running. Let's fight this smart." Somewhere far down the road, a truck engine sounded, a low throat clearing. "That's my ride," she said. "I know," he said. "I called him." She blinked. "You what?" "Marcus Chen," he said. "Former Navy SEAL, head of your security for 6 years. Loyal only to you. I called him while you were packing a note." "How did you—" "Your phone was on the counter." His shrug was unapologetic. "Once my girls cared about you, I had the right to help." The truck's headlights swung across the yard and a man in a windbreaker slid out, compact as a coiled spring. "Ms. Sterling," he said with relief like oxygen. "Are you hurt?" "I'm fine," she said. "Marcus, this is Jack." The handshake between the two men wasn't a contest. It was a contract. "Thank you for keeping her safe," Marcus said. "That's what we do for family around here," Jack answered. And the word landed in Emma's chest with a weight that felt suspiciously like hope. They left at dawn for Denver, 2 vehicles and a plan held together by trust, tape, and necessity. The safety deposit box waited inside a bank vault that smelled lightly of metal and caution. Emma wore her grandmother's ring on a chain, proof of identity protocol she'd invented for herself and never had to use until now. The box slid out. The contents were what she remembered and more. Hard drives, printed ledgers, flash drives with names written in the neat, careful block letters she used when she wanted her future self to believe her. "Everything's here," she said, and the sound of relief in her own voice embarrassed her. The elevator dinged. Patricia Hoffman stood with 2 men in suits, her face pale in a way that made Emma's stomach turn. "Emma," Patricia said, voice clipped to keep it from shaking. "I'm sorry. How long?" Emma asked. "Longer than I'm proud of," Patricia said. They had leverage. It was supposed to be monitoring. Then it became a net. "I thought I could get out. I thought I could at least direct the damage away from your people." "I didn't." The cuffs were cold. Emma did not fight. She counted seconds and listened for a water sound that wasn't in the building. When it came outside a geyser's roar, she knew. Jack's truck had kissed a hydrant. Chaos grows like a weed, quickly and anywhere it can. Marcus guided her toward a service corridor the bank rarely used. The cuffs clicked once more and suddenly her wrists were her own again. They moved through the underbelly of the building, out into an alley that smelled like wet cardboard and rescue. Jack idled at the curb. "Go, go, go," Marcus said, and they did. The safe house smelled like pine cleaner and the last people who had been scared there before. Marcus unpacked the case on a kitchen table that had seen other lives. We have what we need, he said, and lifted a small external drive. Insurance? Emma frowned. I didn't. You authorized a building security system 3 years ago, Marcus said gently. This is a clean mirror of the audio from your high-importance meetings. It felt like cheating until she remembered that it would now save people who hadn't cheated at anything. We release to multiple outlets at once, Marcus said. If one tries to bury it, the others will lift it. Do we have time? Emma asked. We make time, Jack said. Headlights washed the living room walls. The loudspeaker voice outside said, Emma Sterling, this is Agent Sarah Chen with the FBI. My sister, Marcus breathed, and in the 2 words there was both relief and dread. Within minutes they were at the door, hands high, caution thick as smoke. Sarah looked like Marcus around the eyes, sharp, skeptical, taking everything in faster than most people can form a thought. Ms. Sterling, Sarah said. Are you injured? No, Emma's voice surprised her. It sounded like brass. Are you here to arrest me or to help me finish this? Half my field office is compromised, Sarah said quietly. Those weren't FBI who tried to take you at the bank. Patricia Hoffman is dead, staged suicide. Somebody's cleaning house. Come with me and we do this by the book. We've been living in a burned library, Emma said. Books would be nice. Midnight at the Denver field office felt like the hour hospitals change shifts, tired people choosing to keep going anyway. Sarah's trusted 6 gathered at a long table. Evidence grew in islands of paper and plastic. The audio from Patricia's office peeled the paint off the walls. The pressure, the threats to her daughter's family, the plan to frame executives who'd been guilty only of proximity. A financial analyst traced wires through 17 accounts across 3 states, his finger skating a map of greed. The name he said at the end made the room both louder and absolutely silent. Deputy Director James Morrison. He's my boss, Sarah said, every syllable a clenched fist. He oversaw the Sterling case from day 1. Jack felt the floor slide under him at the sound of his last name on the wrong mouth. His phone rang. Tom, Jack said. His brother's voice was a rope pulled taut. Where are you? Agents came to the ranch. They had papers. They took the girls, said protective custody while you're investigated. The room narrowed to a pinhole. Where? They wouldn't say. Emma's hand found Jack's forearm and stayed there. Sarah switched from human to machine in 1 second. Find that order, she said. Trace the origin. Cross-check the custody placement with state shelters. Marcus's voice had the calm of people who have been taught to make plans inside explosions. If Morrison has them, they won't be harmed. He needs leverage, not a kidnapping charge. But we have to move fast. Emma said, I'll turn myself in. You'll get the girls back. Jack shook his head with a violence that startled him. No. This began because I insisted on right, she said. It ends the same way. But it ends with them safe. Sarah's hands braced on the table. We have until noon, she said. We can build a case clean enough to survive the hurricane he will call down. And we get those girls out. She didn't add or else because the or else hung there fully grown. By dawn, the case existed in a form that could stand up in the daylight. The partner voice from earlier tapes, run through a cleaner that made background hums into confessions, matched Morrison. The money trail read like a ledger God would accept. Marcus found the twins in a children's services facility near Colorado Springs that had never hosted an actual state placement. The shell company behind it traced back to a holding enterprise that traced back to a number that tried very hard to be invisible. He's careful, Sarah said. But we've got him. Emma stood. Then we go. Jack nodded once. That was all. The convoy moved through the mountains toward Morrison's private ranch, which sat on a rise pretending to be innocent. Sarah's team had been in place for hours. Cameras, audio, warrants that had bloomed like paper flowers at 4 a.m. Morrison waited on the porch with the bland confidence of a man who believed he had invented power. Miss Sterling, he said, you've made a simple matter very complicated. Where are the girls? Emma said. Safe, he answered, gesturing lazily. Barn. They think this is a grand adventure. Let them go. You misunderstand, he said, smiling without teeth. This was never personal. It was profitable. Sarah stepped forward, weapon down but ready. James Morrison, you are under arrest for conspiracy, corruption, kidnapping, and murder. He chuckled. Nothing you have is admissible. Your process is dirty. Except, Emma said, holding up a small recorder. For the part where you just acknowledged you're holding 2 children to force an outcome. That's clean as rain. For a second, his mask didn't slip, it cracked. Marcus raised his voice just enough to carry. Also, there are 12 federal agents around this property, each with a body cam and a warrant signed an hour ago. From the barn came footsteps like salvation. Lily and Rose barreled out into the light and toward their father. Jack dropped to his knees with a sound he would never be able to describe later. He gathered them. "Are you okay? Are you hurt?" "We're fine," Lily said. "The nice lady said we were on a secret mission and we got pancakes." Jack laughed and cried in the same breath, a sound that breaks things and fixes them at once. Emma stood a few yards away and let tears fall in a thin, grateful line. This was the math that added up. People safe. Children home. The rest could be decided later. The days that followed came with headlines and handcuffs. The network that had laced itself into office furniture and committee rooms came loose under light. Innocent people whose names had been bent were unbent. Patricia. Hoffman's daughter stood on a courthouse step, holding a statement that told the truth about what had been done to a woman who had tried to hold 2 contradictory vows, love and integrity, in the same set of arms. Emma returned what could be returned and learned to live with what couldn't. Sterling Industries was rebuilt with guardrails and new hands. Emma remained a chair in name and let others hold the day-to-day, because power was no longer what she was trying to collect. 6 months later, the Morrison kitchen smelled like cinnamon and butter, and a hint of wood smoke that came from a stubborn log in the stove. Lily and Rose argued cheerfully over cookie sprinkles, the kind of argument that is secretly cooperation. Jack slid his arms around Emma's waist and rested his chin on her shoulder. "You sure?" he murmured. And she laughed because he never stopped asking that. "I've never been sure," she said. "I spent so long building a view from the top that I forgot to build a front porch. Now I have one." They took their coffee to the steps as the sky performed its evening magic trick. Orange into pink, into purple, into O. The girls chased fireflies and shouted, "Got one!" and then opened their hands to let the tiny lanterns go. Emma watched the yard, the fence line, the fields beyond that, and felt her shoulders loosen in a way they never had in the city. Jack took her hand, thumb rubbing the back of it as if reading a story written there. "I don't know much," he said, "but I know this is right." She leaned her head to his shoulder. The word rich presented itself in her mind and rewrote itself. Rich in time, rich in hands to help, rich in small noises that say we're home. The road would still go by. Weather would still come. People would still be complicated. But she had learned the trick of not running, of letting other people's arms hold some of the load. In the yard, Rose cupped a firefly and said to it, very sincerely, "You're safe." And Emma decided that was the whole point of everything. When bedtime came, there were protests and then rituals, and then the blessed surrender that children grant the night when they feel fully held. Emma kissed 2 foreheads that smelled faintly of sugar and grass. In the hallway, Jack reached for the switch, then paused, watching the doorway. "They're my girls," he said softly. "They're ours," she corrected. And there was no lightning in the room, and still something lit it.